Welcome back to the 7th Grade Mustache. On today's episode, we're going to speak about shadow banning. We're going to speak about passive aggressive cuck behavior used by people in power. We're going to talk about all kind of stuff because what happened a couple days ago is that the most recent episode, which is called Doublespeak, episode number 83, was taken down by YouTube. And the warning that we were given was that we were giving medical disinformation. They clearly did not listen to that episode because that episode did not speak about anything medical. That episode was about using language to deceive people. And in the description on the YouTube page for that episode, I said the language of reptilians and pedos. So if you are defending either, you're a piece of shit.
Look. Let's cut to the chase. When we do these episodes, like, yes, I've complained about vaccines and everything else, and even right now, the big thing is there's some conservative DJ in Nashville that was apprehensive about getting the vaccine. He just died of COVID, and in the headlines, he regrets it now. Like, that is so childish. on behalf of all these so-called liberals. You guys are the ones that some of the most childish stuff. Don't get me wrong, conservatives do too. I'm neither one. But when you sit there and use that, where is this compassion that you guys say you have so much of for his family? And how do you know he might not regret it? Hell, he's in heaven. Who knows what? But that kind of stuff right there. Or when we sit here and people, they want to be so intelligent. They want to sound so smart. And one of the things that we go through is that there are keywords out there. And we have these conversations. These aren't even podcasts. These are just conversations that me and Roscoe would have anyway. And people don't want to hear that, or they're tired of it, or they say we're too this, we're too that, we're too masculine, we're too... what are you supposed to do? You know, nobody wants to have the whole intelligent conversation. They just want to have the part that's comfortable to them, or somebody hits you with something and they want to shut you down. When I say shut down, there's certain arguments out there, like, I'm a gun guy. What do you need a gun for? Doesn't mean, like, because I need to protect myself. No, you don't. We got police for that. They think that they just said something so profound and that you can't come back or you can't speak on it. And that's how this is. That's what we're dealing with. Doublespeak, the episode was simply about the fact that they're using certain things to manipulate us. They're using certain words to shut down conversations. And that's all it was. We didn't even attack the whole pedo culture. We didn't even attack any of those things. But this is how powerful it is. This shutdown society, this crap. Look, we're going to do another episode, and we're doing it now. So, hey, Roscoe.
Here's the deal. A lot of this is related to maintaining a narrative. A lot of this is related to propaganda. So, we were raised in this country to understand that propaganda is a device that's used by communist, Marxist, and socialist countries, and not a capitalist democracy. So, the powers that be in 2013 passed a bill in the U.S. Senate called House Resolution 4310. And House Resolution 4310 allowed for the use of propaganda in American media and news. Now, this bill was signed into law and enacted under the Obama presidency because it was part of the 2013 National Defense Authorization Act. Now, he may not even read the bill and known that it was in there, but he signed it nonetheless. So he didn't have any of his aides read this thing and pay attention to it and look out for these red flags, because that's definitely a red flag. But it's allowing government propaganda in the U.S. and making it perfectly legal for the media to purposely lie to the American people.
Now, for the record, the CIA had already been doing this for years. What they would do is they would run articles in the foreign media, and eventually the foreign media would get picked up by the American media. That was one way that CIA would do disinformation or push a narrative. There would be a reputable foreign media like BBC, British Broadcast Council. I don't know what their news agency is, but they would run an article about something that they want to push in America or an agenda, and they wouldn't touch the American media because that's illegal. But at the time, it was illegal before that propaganda came out. Excuse me. And so they would run these ads or these huge stories over there, and they run it over there enough to where the American media would pick it up, and they're picking it up on their own. That means the CIA is not tampering with American media. It's that American media would pick up the story, and that's just one way of getting propaganda out there. They had been doing it for years. Obama gave them the ability to do it legally.
Since then, there has been a clamping down on voices that have been counter to what the popular narrative is. The popular narrative right now is that take your vaccine, be a good citizen, and if we have more booster shots for you to take those as well, and don't complain about it. They want you to get all the booster shots and all the vaccines and all of these things that don't work. So last night I went to the cinema and I watched a movie called Old. It's the latest movie by M. Night Shyamalan. Normally, he makes movies, with the exception of The Sixth Sense, that have a shitty, non-committal ending. Well, this movie had a good ending, really good story with a one hell of a plot twist, because this plot twist, it addressed current times. And so the plot twist was that this island is being used by a pharmaceutical company to test their drugs, and it tests them on the long term. So people go to the island, and there are these rare earth minerals in the rocks that surround the island. And when people go near the rocks or stand near the rocks, it ages them rapidly. It ages them so rapidly that they can die in the course of one day. And so when the people arrive at the island, they get their prescriptions. They make sure that these are not 100% healthy people. They make sure these people have diabetes, or they're epileptic, or they have high blood pressure. And when the people arrive, they have a checklist, and they have a tour guide that tells them, we have all of your drugs for you. You don't have to worry. We understand you have a pre-existing condition, and we want you to go and have a good time. But just know that you can take your medication when it's time, and we have it ready for you. Now, on the surface, that sounds benign. But what you start to see as the movie goes on is that all these sickly people are at this beach kicking it, and they're aging rapidly. And there's people on the beach who have taken medication, or this pharmaceutical company's version of that medication, and they've made upgrades to it without telling the customer or the tourist. And so these people are going about the day enjoying themselves, not realizing that they are guinea pigs for a pharmaceutical company. And they don't find this out until the end, where these 6-year-old kid is aged until he's 50, and he manages to escape off the beach and go and tell this cop who is vacationing there, who then contacts law enforcement, and they find the bodies of everybody died that's on the beach, and they arrest the employees of the pharmaceutical company and everybody that's running the island that's working for them. So what it shows is how they are willing to test drugs on the public unwittingly. The same thing has been happening for the past year and a half with the coronavirus. They have been testing this pandemic on us. They had a tabletop simulation years ago called Event 201. Bill Gates was part of it. The World Health Organization was part of it. The U.S. military was part of it. These are all tabletop simulations to see what would happen in a pandemic. So, of course, they want to have pharmaceutical companies involved in this. So, now they've taken their tabletop simulation and they made it live. And we're living a simulation. See, people want to talk about, oh, we're living, the world of life is a simulation. It is. It is a simulation, but not the type that you think. Not some Matrix type of simulation. No.
Exactly.
This is a pharmaceutical war game, geopolitical, economical simulation. And it's all being run, and everybody in the news is part of it, and they're contributing to the propaganda because the narrative is
whether they know or not. They might be
whether they know it or not, and that is the craziest part, is that they're unwilling Manchurian candidates.
Look, we always give examples. What example we gave several podcasts ago about the vaccine. There's commercials going around saying this vaccine has been tested for 10 years. How can you be testing something for 10 years when COVID's only been around for 2? What that tells you is this vaccine technology they were using, they came up with that a long time ago. Nobody would let them use it. People weren't dumb enough. Now people are dumb enough. And second, this vaccine is conditional. Because there's nothing else to treat it, that's why it's conditional use. But pay attention. The fact that they're coming out with other treatments for COVID makes the vaccine illegal. But that's another conversation nobody wants to have. When we say unwitting, it's like you have several black people. I remember there was a joke Richard Pryor said, a lot of niggas came to America and joined. What they're saying is that you were brought here in chains, and now you call yourself an American. That's fucked up. You should never be an American. Now, of course, we were here prior to slavery, but we'll discuss that later. But what he's saying is you have unwitting participants in their own slavery. The lack of salvation they have is based on their own actions, and they don't even realize it. You have people in the media who, of course, they're doing what their bosses tell them. Of course, they've done the research. Well, you've read what it was given to you, so now you're an authority on it. But if you start doing comparative research, you might find something else. But if you speak up, you get fired. You speak up, then you happen to die from this terrible disease instead of people saying, oh, it's a sad case. Oh no, he regrets not taking the vaccine now. Okay. It's a vaccine, but now they tell me that if you take the vaccine, then your effects of COVID won't be as severe. Listen to yourselves. We took the polio vaccine. You don't get polio-like, do you? You got the measles vaccine. You don't get measles. But you take the COVID vaccine, you might get COVID, and your lungs won't be as messed up. Listen to that. That doesn't even make sense. Another example of people falling in line, me and you had talked about this off the air. I said, I'm sick of all these social workers, all these black women that got these master's degrees being social workers, working with these kids, telling me how to raise my kid. Now, I hate it bugs when people say, well, you ain't got kids, you don't know what it's like. Nah, that ain't got nothing to do with it. You have people who are in this industry of social work who, because they have a couple master's degrees, they think that they understand it, and sisters, many sisters are very literal. So whatever they learn in that class, they stick with. My mom has a master's. She never got too wrapped up in what she learned. She like, okay, I learned this, but then you have the real world. You have these sisters like, oh, you can't spank your kid like I spank my stepkids, and they're telling me I should report you. I'm like, you don't work there anymore, but you want to report me, or you want to tell me, or worse, I had a lady who took in one of my stepkids, and was telling her all this stuff, treating her like she was grown. My child is 15. She's not 26. You're treating her like a homegirl. Well, you got to understand, you got to explain stuff to these kids. Like, no, I don't. Because sometimes those explanations go above their head and their understanding of the world.
Because they don't have any point of reference.
So you have to give them, like, hey, the rule is no. Now, of course, my kid got pregnant in your custody, not at my house. I'm chasing around trying to look for, and so, but all these women got masters. They're all these single black women that know everything. They're moral.
Smart. They're stupid smart.
Only one of them had morals, and that's crazy. We'll discuss that later. But people don't understand laws aren't moral. Morals are different than laws, and their moralities.
Hold on, there are interpretations of laws.
Yes, that's true. Okay, when you discuss this, you have to have this conversation. You know, whenever people try, there's a real smart lady. I talked to her on Facebook, and you heard me use this example twice, where she was like, "Yeah, I love my pit bulls. I got 3 pit bulls, but if they made them illegal, I would get rid of them." Why would you get rid of your dogs because they made them illegal? Because it's a law. I'm like, but the law is not just. I got a friend. He's a lawyer, big gun guy. He's a real big liberal dude. He's helped me out a lot. He's like, yeah, man, I love my guns, but if they made them illegal, I get rid of them. I'm like, why? Because it's illegal. Like, legal and moral. Legal does not make right. Legal is just a justification. We have enough people getting hurt by this. Let's do something about it. No, just because something's legal. Again, slavery was legal. Testing on people was legal. All these different things are legal, and then until they're not, until enough people recognize that this is negative, this ain't a good idea. This is so just saying. But these people, because they're so studied, because they have these master's degrees, because a lawyer has a master's, essentially has a master's in law. So these people are so smart and they're so conditioned that if I read it, it must be the case. Like, nah, man, that's a suggestion. You have to decide for yourself how to apply it. These women tell me I can't spank my kids, I can't do this. I told you, I got in a fight with somebody at a group home one time because the caseworker was basically saying that, hey, my stepson, he needs a counselor, he needs a role model, So I'm like, I said, where the fuck you gonna find a better role model than me? White man got quiet, white lady got quiet, but the caseworker is black. I said, yeah. So where are you gonna find somebody with a degree in economics, a bachelor's in economics and finance? Where are you going to find somebody who owns several houses? Where are you going to find somebody that's been at the time I've been at my company for over 20 years? Where are you going to find this? There's no better role model than me. He's had role models. That's just a hustle. He's asking. He makes these suggestions and you fall for it. and I had the white folks clapping by that time I'm done. But what it is these sisters get these master's degrees. They get the job, and once they get the job, then all of a sudden they believe all the bullshit in it. And these jobs come with bullshit. These sisters, I would adopt that. I'll adopt this kid. I'll do this.
Here's the problem. Let me interject something. Here's the problem. And I see this in a lot of disagreements. I don't have time for you to evolve. I don't have time for you to have an awakening. So right now, I need you to understand. Exactly. So you need to have a Zen moment right now. And it has to be super simple and effective because I'm not going to go on this long-ass ride for you, with you, while you fucking make more mistakes and you're dragging me down with you. Fuck that. I'm not going to suffer.
That's whole society right now.
But that's what I'm getting at is that I'm not going to suffer because of your ignorance. And that's what this is about.
But the problem is people's ignorance, they wear it like a badge of honor. We've said it before. I've said it before. People want to sound smart, not be smart. So they want to sit here and say things that they read. They want to sit here and say things that a professor taught them. But we all know the education system is nothing but an indoctrination system. We all know the education system is a business. So they parade stuff out there. You described it when you were in the film, when you were going to school for film. They weren't teaching you how to create. They were teaching you how to be a cog in the machine, in the bigger machine. But that's what's going on right now. And that's what's going on with our media when they say stuff like, okay, well, that's disinformation. How come one is disinformation and the other one isn't? Who's picking and choosing what's disinformation? And my nephew, my little cousin, I love very much, he posted something on Facebook from Twitter where this chick says, you guys are arguing with scientists about scientists. Huh. Like this girl who said it thought she said something so deep. You argue with scientists because science is not an exact science. Science is always changing.
No,
history always changes.
This is part of what I'm talking about. Whenever you hear anyone say the science is settled, bullshit, Mr. Handman. It wouldn't be science if it was settled.
Look,
listen, science is constantly evolving. It's always evolving, and there's always new data. Wait. Hold on. Hold your fire. There's always new data. There's always a fresh perspective that you can step away from it and come back to it with a fresh pair of eyes. So you can't say the science is settled. You know why you can't say that? Because they still don't know what
Say
the
it,
fuck
say it.
gravity is.
Look, hold it. All these fields of science, psychology, biology, they were all rooted in what? Racism. Back then, they were saying that black folks was this and black folks was that. So what was psychology was based on what? Phrenology. Phrenology was a study of how many marbles you can put in somebody's skull. So you could put more marbles in a white man's skull than you could a black man's skull, so the black man must be inferior. That's what psychology was based on. That was a science. That was a science. So to sit here and say that you don't argue with scientists, that's a dumb motherfucker that said that. You do realize half the experiments they were doing on us don't apply because white people and black people do have a different physiology in some cases. But that's not based on the black. It's based on where you're from. It's based on your diet. It's based on your family. So this whole thing about, well, you can't argue with science, man. Yes, you can, and you should. But right now, scientists are more worried about who does their funding. They care about funding. So whenever business is at the bottom line, then you're going to get the answer that gets them the most money.
Right.
So
if that goes counter to what their underwriters are working or saying, then
they're grant
they
writers.
will be silenced, which means that science is not settled. There you go. But listen,
look.
This is what bothers me. What bothers me is when people are willing to give over their thinking, their critical thinking, to the intelligentsia elite because, I didn't spend 12 years studying macrobiology or molecular biology. No, man, listen. Every citizen is capable of critical thinking. Every citizen should challenge the narrative or popular beliefs or the logic behind the system that creates vaccines or the profit-driven system behind the pharmaceutical companies that make the vaccines. People, hold on. I brought this up because I've been in conversation with people and they're like, who are you? Who am I? I'm the average man. I'm the Joe Schmo on the fucking street. So, of course, I have the right. Yeah. Because it comes to me. The bullshit, I'm at the bottom of the avalanche. So all the bullshit falls down on me. So yeah, that's who I am. I'm a concerned citizen. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a person that has a vested interest in these outcomes or these things that are going to affect my life or the life of my friends and family or society in general because I'm thinking long term about the end game. So when a person challenges my authority on a subject matter, I tell them, stop giving away your power. You give away your power. You want somebody else to do the heavy lifting for you. You want somebody else to do the deep thinking for you. That's the problem with a person like that. And these are people that I know very well that have challenged me in this regard. And I say to them, stop giving your power away.
Look, when people act like that they get things they don't get, they think because they read something or saw an article or they saw something on 2020 or they saw something on MSNBC or they saw it on Fox News that it's it. That's it. It's like the Ten Commandments. That this is how it is and there's nothing else. But that's the whole thing. When you look at these sciences, how many things in the past don't exist anymore because they were wrong. Not because we have better technology now or things evolved. They were just completely wrong. There's certain things they don't do anymore, like tonsils. You know, every 3 years they take your tonsils out. Like, hey, the tonsils are inflamed. You take the tonsils out. Then for 3 years they don't. Like, nah, we don't do that anymore. Then 3 years later they start taking them out again. That's because they don't know. It's called practicing medicine. So you mean to tell me a doctor does not know what the tonsils do? Now, the funny thing is, when you start studying Dr. Sebi and start these natural healers, what did they tell you about the tonsils? The tonsils are actually what detects infection coming into the body, and that tells the body to produce antibodies. So the reason they get infected is because that infection is stopped from going to the rest of the body. So literally, this is what I'm learning from reading this natural shit. But if you ask a regular doctor, oh yeah, what they call a fastigial organ, fastigial organ, like the pancreas, we don't need them anymore. They're telling you don't need your tonsils. They're not telling you that because you don't need them. They're telling you that because they can't figure out what they do. The appendix, well, you don't need that anymore. There are people born with tails. Oh, you don't need that anymore. Whatever. I don't get that. But what I'm trying to say is since they can't figure out what it does, they tell you don't need it.
Okay, so I used to see this a lot with the health industry. So when I would read these studies on vitamins and vitamin C, for example, and you would hear a study that said in 2008 that you can have too much vitamin C. And then in 2012 it says, well, actually, you can take up to 50,000 milligrams of vitamin C through an IV and it's just fine because it helps remove toxins. So which is it? So which one? Because it depends. Yeah, exactly. But it depends on who is funding the research. And so they're always going back and they're changing it, revising it. And I don't have time for you to evolve so that I can take your word for it. I don't have time for that because my life is finite. And because of that,
I don't want to waste my time.
I'm not going to waste my time waiting for a part of society that is so closed-minded. They won't see things from any other perspective except for their own. I don't have time. I'm not going to placate you. I'm not going to patronize you either. But at the same time, I'm not going to give away my power. So, you have all these people that look to the health and beauty industry, and they look for these reports, and they get all this information that tells them stuff they already knew. For example, black don't crack.
What they want to hear. It tells them what they want to hear. How about that?
For example, black don't crack. We fucking knew that already. we don't need you to tell us that shit. But
here's my thing.
But hold on, but these are book smart people though. That's the problem.
Well, what about that commercial you see like at 5 o'clock in the morning where they talk about that scientist in France found the secret to aging in some melon? How come they just don't sell that melon everywhere, my nigga? I don't have to buy your product. I can eat that melon. You give me some.
Oh no,
look, I love melons.
But we have to standardize it, and then we concentrate it, and then you can take it. Oh, okay. So what about coral calcium? Do I need that too? Because that was you're busy trying to sell me that shit. I understand that was some hype train nonsense, but still.
Okay, on a personal note, here's what I'm going through. So when I say fuck scientists, I'm telling you, fuck scientists. My dog has cancer, so she was having a problem with eating and breathing. My mom took her to the vet, so she had throat cancer, and it went all the way to the bone of her jaw. So they had to cut part of the cancer out. Some of her teeth fell out. So. They have to send the results away. It took about 3 or 4 days. So they just got back to us and said, "Hey, yeah, Sue has cancer. We knew she had cancer." And so they're like, "Well, look, we can cut into it and remove it, and you can talk to the oncologist." Like, this is a dog oncologist, and told my mom it's $5,000. So I said, "Hey, Ma, look, here's what you do." I gave her what questions to ask, and she asked all the questions. And she's like, "Well, how about I just leave it?" And I said, "That's a good idea." She said, "Because if it's cancer, it's going to come back. Ain't nothing we can do." So I said, "Ma," I said, "you got Johnson grass out there?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Go get that Johnson grass, dry it out, and boil it. Boil some Johnson grass and pour that on her food every day." Johnson grass has that amygdalin in it, that vitamin, that Laetrile B17 that they say cures cancer. I'm like, the last time one of my godmother, Teresa, had breast cancer, what did I do? I got the apricot pits. She hung around for another 6 or 7 more years. She just passed. I said, there's a natural cure to cancer. Just do it naturally. Either you get some apricot pits and break them open and feed them to her, or you boil that Johnson grass.
This is primal ancestral knowledge. This is stuff.
She's been eating Johnson grass. The dog has been eating Johnson grass. Mm-hmm. Animals know this, that Johnson grass will cure cancer. So I don't have a choice because they already told me it's $5,000, and it's not a definite. So
No.
I can spend $5,000 for a big maybe,
Right.
or I can just get some Johnson grass bullet, and that's a maybe too. But if I'm right, my dog, look, she's a Great Dane, so she only gets about 11 years anyway. She's right at that 7-9 year mark. If I can get her for another 2 years, great. But what I'm saying is that your scientists want me to give them money, but they can't give me a guarantee.
Right.
Your scientists,
Exactly. We're going to
they
work
care
on
about
it,
money.
but we're not going to fix the problem, really, so.
Yeah, but we're going to work on it at your expense. And then you're going to put my dog through more stuff and put her in pain, her quality of life. Look, no. I will do what my ancestors told me to do, and I'll go from there with it.
So, look, what pharmaceutical companies do is they go into these indigenous cultures. They study the shamans. They study the medicine of the shamans, and they find a way to patent that and make medicines out of that.
Hey, Harvard has a building dedicated. I can't think of the name of the building. Please forgive me. But there's a building on the Harvard campus, and that's what they do. They travel the world. They have funding.
The
and they get all
movie
these different...
The Serpent and the Rainbow is about exactly that. This guy's going to
this
Haiti.
is real.
He's going to Haiti, and he looks up. He looks up the shaman, or the
Voodoo. Yep.
the hoodoo shaman, and he fucks around, and he gets some powder blown in his face, and he wakes up in a coffin with a tarantula on his chest. And he wants to know how he was able to survive in this coffin for so long, buried underground. And his whole mission to go there is to find the pharmaceutical drug, copy it, and make money off of it. I don't have time for these motherfuckers to go into the deepest Africa, the Congo, the Central America, and figure this shit out. I don't have time for that. But what I do have time for is ancestral knowledge. Stuff that is tried and true and that works. I don't have time to deal with the judgment of the people in the ivory tower looking down on my people and telling them that their way of life is not good enough, but we want to borrow some of the stuff you got and use it. So I don't have time for that shit.
Look, here's what I want y'all to do. I want y'all to stay tuned for our next episode. Computers ruined everything, because it's really important to recognize how this got topsy-turvy and turned around and who's in charge. And before, it was about who was in the best shape. Now it's about who cheats the best. And this is something I'm just letting y'all know. This is coming up in one of our podcasts. But this is a prime example of that, where all they care about the cheat code. These guys that play computer games, all they care about is the cheat code. Well, these guys want a cheat code for life, and they sit here and they go from culture to culture. They're not guessing, because if that was the case, they would just take every fruit and break it down and figure out its components. No, they like, okay, so you guys have a cure for this, or you have a treatment for this. Okay, we'll get that. You guys have a treatment for this. Okay, and they take the chemical out. And this is, again, one of our old podcasts. I told you guys, the side effects are not by accident. The side effects are on purpose, because you mean to tell me that you can't take a fruit or a vegetable or a plant, isolate the one chemical, and give it to me? Why does it have side effects? It didn't have side effects when it was in the leaf form. Why does it have side effects now? Because the side effects are on purpose. Because, I cure you of this, or I treat this, but now you have another problem, so you got to keep coming back. Because if I cure you, I don't have a repeat customer. But if I give you a new addiction, a new affliction, a new disease because of this, you'll keep coming back. So when they say this vaccine is the future, it is the future. It's their future moneymaker. That's what it is. It's creating people that have to come back. So no drug dealer worth their salt will give you a drug that won't make you come back. Even weed, you got to smoke more than one joint. Crack, you got to smoke. But what if crack you smoked at one time and you stayed high forever? Man, that's a shitty drug dealer, isn't it?
Okay. Under Joseph Stalin, Soviet propaganda, along with the communist economic system, was meant to create a new Soviet person. The new Soviet person possessed all the desired qualities of the Soviet citizen. They cared more about the collective than themselves. They believed in the Soviet country and the Communist Party, and they would help spread socialism around the world. See, socialism is a lighter form of communism for the people who don't like a strong drink, and so they water it down. But propaganda in the Soviet Union was the practice of state-directed communication to promote patriotism and the goals of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union and the party itself. In the Stalin era, it penetrated the social and natural sciences, giving rise to pseudoscience. And the fields of real knowledge like genetics, cybernetics, and sociology were condemned. So what we're living now in is a mirror world of that, where
Byproduct of that.
yes, where cybernetics and sociology and genetics are the focus, but propaganda has returned.
It's delivery. That's how they deliver it to you. And since you're used to it, and the propaganda sounds so good, and you don't want to think anymore, you allow this to become our current reality, our situation. Now I'm fighting it. We're fighting it. We're putting up a good fight. But the thing is, what happens when you have these children who are lazy, think that they look for authority in the government and the police, and all of a sudden you have no one fighting it anymore because they think this is the way it's supposed to be. You have people from Chicago that think the government's supposed to take care of you. You should get a check. A check is fine in tough times, but what do I have to do for that check? Oh, I got to do this. Oh, I got to do that. So, look, people, stop giving away your power, because the powerful people know where your power is. You don't. And then you actually believe that this person who just declares himself as an authority, like Fauci, authority on what? Bill Gates, authority on what? These people are not authorities, but they have power. And since they have power, they can also dictate what you hear and what you don't hear. That's all it is.
Okay, so remember the proletariat, the working class person who owns nothing and trades their sweat equity and labor for a part in society. And so what we have in the return of feudalism, or the neo-feudalism, in this technocratic society that is replacing the old society that we were raised in, propaganda is a big part of that. But there are these agendas that are being pushed on you that are alien to your own intuition. But it is through a slow reconditioning that you will question everything.
Nothing.
Here's the thing. You will question everything in an effort to separate everybody. And you will then be so paranoid, you become exhausted, and you submit. So, what is going on now is that people actually believe the earth is flat. That is an example of how disconnected people have become
how powerful
from common sense. And you won't even, we have reached a point where we are not even sure if the planet we live on is a sphere. The reason why that exists is, number one, it was a troll. But number two, the reason why it persists is because so much division has been created amongst common people that no one trusts anyone. They only trust the state.
But also the conflict. If we're in conflict with each other, we don't question the people that are in charge.
It's a big smokescreen distraction program. And
why do we even have parties anymore?
Right. That's the thing, though. It's like we fight so much with each other and bicker over the smallest things. When people are hanging off of military cargo planes, falling off, trying to escape a crazy-ass militaristic dictatorship, tribal warfare country, and people here are bickering over gender pronouns. Ridiculous.
They hustle because they know if you're in conflict with them, you can't be in conflict with them on top. If I'm in conflict with I'm a light-skinned black person, I'm a dark-skinned black person, we're arguing back and forth who's better, the white man just sits there in the big house and exploits us. So whenever I tell you that they perfected this what's the word I'm looking for? This this society on us, they perfected this thing on us, and then they give it to everybody. So if black folks are arguing about who's light-skinned and who's dark-skinned, but they still go to work every day, and that means they'll never want to kill the white man.
It's
now,
the Willie Lynch playbook is being used on the entire world.
On the entire world. Oh, I'm liberal. Oh, I'm conservative. So we're fighting about that bullshit again. You never. So let me ask you a question. What party is Bill Gates? Because you don't know. He gives money to both sides.
But hold on. This is the guy that wears sweaters in the summertime because he wants to cool the earth.
Cyborg.
He's just getting ready.
Yeah. Oh, he is the real Mr. Burns. You do realize that he does have a plan to blot out the sun to keep the earth cooler. All the shit you saw in The Matrix, all the shit you saw in The Simpsons, this motherfucker has proposed. So either he's not watching TV, or he's that villain. He is an actual diabolical villain who sits there and thinks about ways of making money and how to limit the population. But he doesn't even watch his own programs. He doesn't even watch TV. He just sits there and he thinks that,
because he understands TV is programming. That's why.
Hold it. He understands it's programming for you, but he doesn't watch it because he's like, hey, I ain't gonna get brainwashed by that bullshit.
Correct.
So he's sitting there. And he comes up with an idea. He's like, I'm the first to ever have this idea. He's that arrogant. He's that. The universe revolves around him so much that when he has an idea, he's God. It originated with him. It never could have come from someplace else.
First of all, red flag. The guy has baby teeth, and he wears sweaters in the summertime, and he wants to darken the sun. That's just not okay with you? That's okay? That's okay? You cool with that shit?
Yeah. He's the one you look up to? Bullshit, Mr. Handman. This guy came out of a comic book. And until you understand that the people running this shit ain't smart, they're just powerful.
Until you realize that, you will be on Mr. Han's island. This motherfucker is the Handman. He is Mr. Han from Enter the Dragon. And y'all don't even realize it.
What does he do? He has that tournament where you fight each other. But he sits there and he collects all the money, all the drugs, all the bitches, while y'all fight it out underneath him for his entertainment. We are entertainment to these people, and we're just a source of income.
So this goes back to propaganda. And when you speak out against it, you're a crazy person. And they created a word, conspiracy theorist. That word is to be used as a knee-jerk reaction to get you back in lockstep, because you're the nail that's sticking up, so they want to hammer you down. They want to intimidate you into cooperation. And I can't tell you how many black folks I've come across, and when they tell me they got the vaccine, they sound defeated. They're like, yeah, I went and got it. I'm like, the way you told me that, the way you said it, described everything about your view of it. You're tired, and you don't want to fight no more. That's what I hear. I'm hearing a lot of people that just don't have the fight in them. I'm like, dude, you have to keep fighting. There is no bigger fight right now. There's no bigger fight.
For the future. You're fighting for your children.
And they don't even realize that. Like, you're fighting for everything that comes after you. Everybody's standing up. All the fucking protests in France, in the UK, and Spain, all these European countries that are protesting. Yeah, these people have the right idea. They're voicing their minds and letting people know, hey man, I'm not with this shit. And there's been some grocery stores in France that won't let people in without a vaccine card. That's how fucked up this thing has become. That they're willing to deny you food. I've never in the history of mankind have I ever heard of such a thing.
Look, so if they care about your health, why aren't they not feeding you? Oh, because it's not about the health. It's about who's in charge.
It's about who's calling the shot. It's about who's calling the shots. Yes. But that's the thing. And here's another thing I keep going back to. When I tell people, the American medical system is behind all of this. And America has the most corrupt, profit-driven medical system in the world. But yet you trust these people. You're calling these people heroes. No. You want to put the nurses and the low-end people, the foot soldiers, in the front and call them heroes. Not the people writing policies. Not the directors at these hotels. Those people aren't heroes at all. Because those people are in bed with pharmaceutical companies whose job it is to keep you hooked on their drugs and sick until the end of your existence. All of this is propaganda. There's a reason why only the U.S. and U.K. have pharmaceutical commercials. No other countries allow it. Because they fucking know.
No commercial for herpes treatment.
But that's what I'm saying. That is fascism. When corporations and the government become the same.
Co-opt each other. Yep.
See? And everybody's okay with it because everybody's so fucking scared. Because they've been giving them this propaganda, fear porn over and over and over. But I'm going to tell you one thing, man. When black folks were in the streets tearing shit up, well, let me straighten that out. When black people were protesting and the white anarchists were in the streets tearing shit up, there's a difference. Nobody was talking about coronavirus no more. Nobody gave a fuck. It was, and you know what? Nobody's talking about Me Too either. Because everybody was like, hey, man, hey, no, not right now. Not right now. And they did not fucking bat an eye. They're like, okay, all right, cool. But we're going to come back to this, but okay. We'll talk about the blacks right now.
Yeah, just be patient.
Right. And as soon
You know what they say? Niggas got a short attention span. That's what they said. Don't worry about it.
Well, I mean, not at that moment. But what I'm saying is that they do what we allow them to do. They promote and report what we allow them to report. There are no more punk rock news outlets. Everybody now is raging on behalf of the machine. And the propaganda is just sickening. And it is everywhere. But it's all for profit. These are profit-driven propaganda programs.
That's some deep shit you just said about the punk rock. You got to remember the whole punk rock movement was DIY, do it yourself. And we have gotten away from do it yourself. Nobody wants to look up information for themselves. Nobody wants to discover anything. They just want to be a product of everything else. And when you become a product, you're manipulated. You are what they want you to be. You're what's ever fashionable. And that shit is fucked up, man. That's backwards.
Indeed it is. But see, the punk rock aesthetic was all about like, hey, fuck you. Get the fuck out of my way. It wasn't nice at all. It wasn't Green Day. It wasn't none of that shit. No. This is Assaulted Nuts, okay? This is fucking real punk rock in your face punk rock. Ain't no more punk rock mentality anywhere. Nobody, nowhere. Not in the white community, not the black community, no. Everybody is so docile and pacified now. They're so passive. You know, nobody pushes back. You know, and they bring out these old sacrificial cows for, you know, the big show. Police brutality, racism. all this bullshit. Those are the sacrificial cows. Oh, we'll get a rise out of the blackies if we do this. Let's kill one on TV and see how they react to that.
But whenever that happens, there's always some kind of law that gets passed, or there's always some kind of bill that slips by that that was important about Monsanto or some stuff like that. But worry about who's cut the checks, because that's who's deciding what gets said and what doesn't get said.
But nobody is checking the lobbyists that are on Capitol Hill, getting these meetings with these senators. Nobody is going after those people. So, and here's another thing, this whole fact-checking thing that you see now popping up. It's so funny because when you search for a subject, one of the hits or returns in the search engine will be a fact check. So these things have been placed there purposely to get your attention, and it should be taken as a source of moral authority. So Reuters had a fact check for graphene in vaccines. Well, when you look at the vaccine ingredients, the Moderna vaccine has an ingredient called SM-102. SM-102 is a quote-unquote proprietary ingredient. Okay, all right, give me some of the ingredients that are in this special sauce. And you'll find they behave in ways that are similar to graphene, meaning they can conduct electricity. They have mechanical potential, meaning they can be activated and then manipulated. So just yesterday, the FDA approved a newer vaccine for Pfizer. This was in the news yesterday. They approved a newer vaccine, which is a 2-stage vaccine, just like another 2-shot, but another vaccine. So the first one they came out with wasn't quite good enough, and they had to. So anyway, the first one wasn't quite good enough. And with the first one, that was just to test the waters and test the public reaction. And so now we got the public reaction. We can see, okay, we need something a little bit harder hitting, because that new Delta variant mixtape is out now. And so with the new mixtape out, we got to make sure everybody goes to the fucking wherever and they get their new mixtape. They need to get the copy of the mixtape. We want everybody on that mixtape. We demand you take this. You won't be able to buy groceries, get on an airplane, can't go nowhere without this mixtape. Meanwhile, in old Detroit, I'm walking around and everybody is cool, everybody is fine. The funny thing is, like, they were a lot like Georgia in the lack of hysteria. Michigan was very much like Georgia in its lack of. Nobody's wearing a fucking mask anywhere except for like maybe at a.
But you know why don't you? Because with people that go through hard times, they've been.
Detroit is a dead city that's hanging on, and it's trying to come back to life.
They've been through the struggle already.
They ain't got time for you motherfuckers to evolve. They don't have the time.
See, but the problem is, we got a president telling, I'm going to go door to door. Go door to door in Detroit. They ain't got no doors. They don't give a fuck.
Ain't no house.
They don't give a fuck. Look, we're trying to tell you guys that just because somebody has the ability, not the right, but the ability to dictate what's being said and what's being heard, does not mean that they have your best interest at heart. Just because somebody is an authority on a subject does not mean they're an authority on you and your life. Stop falling for the bullshit. Stop falling for the title. Stop falling for the degrees, because that's how we got here in the first place. These people with degrees are making diseases. It's called gain of function. Gain of function means that you're taking a disease that animals get and you're making it so humans can get it. What was the point in doing that? You don't do shit because you can. You do shit because it's right. What was right about that activity? That's how we got to where we are.
So the deal is that you're being forced to think a certain way. There's a lot of people out there who have this ride or die, I don't give a damn mentality. Well, it appears that only applies to certain subjects, and it's not blanket across the board rebellion or a rebel mentality. So
when it counts.
Exactly.
They'll shoot each other. They'll shoot the other black man, but they won't ever rise up against police. Back in my day, people shot Ronald Reagan. What happened to those guys? What happened to the guys that used to shoot heads of state because they were making laws they didn't like? What happened to those guys? Oh, you gave them a job. What the fuck happened? Back in the day, you had motherfuckers shooting Kennedy. Presidents got shot because they were passing bills that people didn't like. If they shot Abraham Lincoln because he was doing away with slavery, don't get me wrong. They shouldn't have shot him. He was a good dude. All right, dude, don't get not good. But the point is this, is that people actually cared about these elections. People actually cared about what people were talking about and doing. How come ain't nobody killed nobody no more?
Right.
Because they're docile. You're afraid of going to jail? You live in jail. You can't go anywhere. You can't do shit. You ain't got no privileges. You ain't got no food on your commissary card, nigga. You can't use the phone now.
Right.
So why the fuck is it so hard for you not to recognize that you're living in a prison?
And that's the deal, is that people they live for comfort. Everybody's living for comfort. And they don't want those creature comforts taken away. Because, yeah, exactly. Because just give me just enough to exist and I'll let you do whatever you want. They're like that abused woman that wants just enough of a peaceful existence to stay and not leave.
She blames herself for getting beat.
Which is
it's
the
my
same
fault.
Which is the same thing that people are doing now with this fucking virus or these viruses, is that people are blaming each other for spreading it as opposed to the people that created it and those who propagate it, meaning those who want to give you vaccines that don't work, which makes a vaccine passport totally useless. Because, okay, so wait a minute. Let's just check this out real quick. You're telling me that I'll get this vaccine, I can't get the coronavirus, but I can give it to other people? How can I give something that I didn't have before? How does that work? So now that I got this shot, I can give it to people, but I can't get it? I don't understand. That doesn't track. It doesn't make any sense. So you're telling me that you lied to me. You're basically saying that you lied. You're saying that you lied about what this vaccine and this virus really is. Dude, there's people that are saying that the Chinese don't even eat bats, and that somebody who was in a wet market was actually there buying food, but they were doing research in a cave that had bats in it days before, and they brought some pathogen from that cave to this wet market. And then that person then went from there to work back at the Wuhan laboratory, not far from this wet market, which was demolished, completely demolished before any real criminal investigation could be done there.
Don't forget, for a while they said it wasn't bat. They said it was a civet. Remember? Oh, it's not a bat. That's a traditional medicine. They don't do that. Okay, which animal was it? And how would you know? The fact that you have this much knowledge of it means you have knowledge of the origin.
That's right.
There's no way that you can have this much knowledge of. Look, here's my question to you: did chicken pox come from chickens? I don't know where it came from. Nobody does.
Right.
But these motherfuckers know where this shit came from. That's because they created it.
Yeah. I mean, see, here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. The United States is in a war of intimidation with a communist country, and there's part of the government that doesn't want to piss off these communists because they're making so much money. The other half is the military, who's saying, fuck you, we will nuke you off the face of the planet. So you have these two factions within the American government. But they don't want to come out and say straight up, fuck these communist motherfuckers. So what do?
Because
they rage on behalf of the machine against you. So they sell out the American public to benefit from Chinese money because they're saying they have the largest market share of whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is that they are using the same tactics now. The United States government is using the same tactics that the Soviets and the Chinese and North Koreans have been using for a long time, and it's propaganda. And for you to overturn that apple cart means you will be erased. And you have ex-American soldiers who are willing to go out and kill people for profit to keep this propaganda, profit-driven machine going, because everything is for sale. Everything is for sale, including your morality and your willpower. All these things are. So, essentially, you're at war on every level, and you can't forget that. You can't forget that. But on each level, you have to meet it where it is and use the art of war to win these battles on each of these levels, mentally, spiritually, psychologically.
You have to admit that you're in a fight first. Until you either recognize or admit it, you will not be able to succeed. You will not have a favorable outcome because people don't want to even admit that they're in a fight.
That's right. So, in closing, understand that there is propaganda that's being pushed on you, and even question where your viewpoint is now. Are you being true to yourself? Is your viewpoint one that was created by a corporation that runs a news outlet? When you go out in the world and you see real people and you interact with real people, be genuine. Don't create some artificial barrier between you and those people, because this is something that you were told by others. It was just a trip, man, because like when I was in Detroit the last couple of days, it felt like 2019. Like nobody was tripping, dude. Like everybody, I'm guessing all these people got, vaccines. Half of them do, half of them don't. It don't matter to me. That shit doesn't matter to me because it's fucking hot, okay? And the heat kills the virus on contact. So I'm not thinking about that. I'm good. Common sense tells me that too. So propaganda doesn't work on you when you have knowledge of self, when you have an expanded awareness, and when you have faith. Never lose your faith. Have faith, because it will keep you from going under. It's like a jungle sometimes. That's all we got. We out. Peace.
Holla back.